Marko.
We're here again, man. What's this? How many years?
11.
Oh my God.
11 years.
11 years. We've done this 11 years.
Yeah.
Well, we're here again today. We're going to do our usual IAQ. And we actually have a new special guest.
John Massitti, Cleveland Waterproofing. We do all the underground.
You know what? Tell me your website. He's got a great
website. www.clevelandwaterproofing.com.
And Jimmy, you?
Oh, SterryTech.com.
Tom?
I have no idea.
All right, just look at the other videos in the past couple years. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, you put out on, you have a blog site.
Okay.
And,
right.
Yeah, and so you asked for them to ask for some questions. And I picked up the questions off the blog site. Some of them were interesting. They were all interesting, but some of them were more germane than others. One writer wanted to know about formaldehyde in the house and copper pipes and lead versus PEX pipe, stuff like that. And of course, first of all, let me reiterate from last year that university studies have shown that indoor air quality is responsible for half the illness in this country. Now, that isn't Jim Roby saying it or Tom Jones saying it. This is not a sales pitch. It's a reality. So, mold is part of that, but certainly not all of it. And chemicals are a big part of it. And formaldehyde is probably the biggest chemical component in the house. And yes, there are people that are multiply chemical sensitive that are allergic to formaldehyde. What do you do about it?
Air out the house. Right?
Open the window.
Try it.
Excuse me. This is your $300,000 house you just bought. You need to keep all the windows open for the first 12 months?
5 years.
Wow. Open all the windows so all the wood outgasses. Right? I mean,
Wood.
pretty much, right?
And other things as well. Paint.
Right.
Lacquers.
Yeah, carpeting.
Carpeting. They tell you it's supposed to be safe. Do you believe that?
Well, if you get natural fibers, and you can go on the allergic websites that give you all the pointers on what to use, and you've got to buy solid wood. You can't use OSB, stuff like that. If you really want to get into it, and you really want to become organic and green, but most people aren't. And how do they compensate for it? Well, you can heat the place up for 3-4 days. That will help the outgassing occur faster. All right.
Like the bed bugs. That's what get rid of bed bugs. They heat the house up.
Heat it up. They heat it up.
What do they do? You know how?
I heard they heat it up very, very hot.
140 degrees.
Something. Yeah, I'm not
For
sure
like
exactly.
I don't know how many hours.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's everywhere.
But you know what? You got to take the candles out. Because if not, you're gonna have some wax all over the place, right?
But seriously, I've heard of that, and of course, that is a great help. You can put in a really good air purifier, and with carbon in it and HEPAs, and you can get most odors right out of the house.
I see you have one right here. I'll show the audience.
Yeah.
Now this is you carry this in your car, don't you? Why don't you tell people about your you can tell them.
I love mine, man.
You have the same one, right?
Yeah, when Jimmy turned me on to it,
Tell me about it. Tell me about the what does it do?
It just really makes everything smell fresh. Clean.
And it has
dingy or moist. You turn that thing on and
it has a HEPA filter, right?
It's got the HEPA. It's got the carbon. It's got that carbon charcoal.
Wow.
Filter.
What's that? What is that?
It's for the odor.
For the odors.
Yeah.
VOCs. Yeah.
Do you have to change that filter or no?
Yeah. Yeah, depending on the use, you change it once a year. But if it's in a little more serious conditions, you might have to change the filter faster.
Like you sell these, right?
Yeah, we do to our allergically challenged clients, and I really don't sell them. I place them in the house. I say, listen, this might help you. Try it for 2 or 3 weeks, and see how you feel. If you feel all right, if you think it makes a difference, then you can have it.
Did he put that in your house the same?
Yep.
And did you keep
I
it?
said, take it. Yeah, I won't give it back to him.
So how many people actually say, take this thing out of my house? It doesn't work. Honestly,
maybe 10 to 15%. The rest of them,
keep it.
yeah.
And how do you you have to buy filters for this?
Yes, once a year.
And it's like a special brand that's for indoor air quality.
This is Healthway, and this is the only FDA approved or accepted. This has an FDA approval. They had to go through thousands and thousands of dollars worth of application fees and documentation to prove that they do what they say they do. Most air purifiers make marketing claims. They don't have science to back it up. And that's the thing in the air purification business. Yeah, mine's better than yours, and mine does all this. Oh yeah, prove it. Well, these guys proved it.
And how many years have you been selling these?
Since 9/11.
Oh my God! So almost like 14 years, and it has a good track record. Then it's here right now, right?
I wouldn't stay in my cottage without that. Because you know this cottage, I mean, we love it, but it's only this far off the ground, and you walk in after it's been closed up for a week.
It has one of those crawl spaces, vented crawl spaces.
You can't even crawl. It has a dead space. There's no crawl there about it.
Now you could fix that. How would you fix that? You're a concrete guy.
What, this?
Yeah. How would you fix a crawl space?
How would I fix the crawl space?
It's an A-frame.
If you had access to the crawl space, what you'd do is you actually would expose whatever substrate is and put down a 10 mil vapor barrier, and either pour scratch coated concrete or put some type of a blanket down to be able to hold the moisture down.
You know, the Marko radon blanket fixed the crawl space.
Super technique, right?
Right. You got to stop. You got to stop the actual moisture in the water by diverting it somewhere.
I got a question. You do concrete pours all over Cleveland, and
right.
You specialize in HVAC and what was it? You do sewer camera.
We do televising sewer camera.
You fix people's drains.
We like to televise and to be able to isolate the problem rather than do unnecessary work. Because if I could save you money, you're going to remember me, right?
Absolutely. So you're the guy to go in there before they hire a waterproofer. They hire you, and you go in there and you look at the drainage and you do all the engineering. And you're like, this is why it's leaking.
Right.
And then you take your little camera, whatever that scope thing you have is, and you check it. Look, there's a tree too close to your house, or the sewer's broken. All we got to do is this.
Right.
Instead of call one of those big waterproofing companies.
Right, we have the location devices that we can isolate it and find it within the diameter of the pipe and just dig there. Once you dig it up, you find it, you take it apart, and you always install a service port. So that would be a clean out. Every time that you expose a line or you have access to a line, you want to put a service port because you never know if you ever got to get back into it. You put a service port clean out, then you never got to dig again.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you said something about a scratch coat. What is a scratch coat?
It would just be just a 2 to 3 inch slab of concrete, and you just puddle it in. It's nothing fancy, just to hold the vapor barrier down.
So you put the vapor barrier down, you pour the scratch coat,
right,
and now you have a vapor barrier and almost
and a surface concrete.
Is that a conditioned space? What I think you got to tell people what a conditioned space crawl space is.
We do have this in a previous video, but.
Oh, we do. Well, just make it quick.
But
we're gonna make it quick.
The conditioned space has got to have dehumidification. You can't have vents in the crawl space. You have to have some sort of barrier on the floor, either the scratch coat or the radon blanket. You've got to insulate the exterior walls, and you've got to have a dehumidification system in it so that it's conditioned.
This ain't gonna work. That's a hole in your crawl space that water can get down into. Vented crawl spaces generally don't work Vented crawl spaces can be big problems. You want a floor that's 100% sealed with the vapor barrier. You want the walls to be insulated. You don't want insulation in plastic up here, because if the air conditioner's on, you're going to have condensation. And then we want to open it to the basement so we can see and look and inspect, and we can dehumidify the basement and dehumidify the crawl to heat, cool, condition, dehumidify, and properly insulate the perimeter walls, properly install a 100% vapor barrier. Maybe we got to put in a sump pump or a drainage system if there's water getting in there.
You can't
Heat and cool, condition.
Yeah, you've got to have heat.
You have to treat it like your living room.
Exactly.
So it's supposed to.
Now, what about the ductwork
right?
in a crawl space that's conditioned? What do you? Tom is an expert on HVAC. You do all that, those energy audits, right? And you do air balancing and blower doors and thermal imaging and all that, right? So back to this crawl space. What do we do with the ducts in the crawl space? We have to what?
You do not insulate them.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's in the conditioned boundary, because you've sealed off the ventilation, and so you heat and cool it just like you do your bedroom or your living room.
Just like your basement.
Yeah.
Now, what about the cold air returns?
We don't put a cold air return in the crawl space.
What if there's one in there? An old crawl space?
There shouldn't be, but if there was, we would seal it off.
So you seal all the joints.
Yeah.
And that's what your guys always talk about, the negative pressure in the crawl spaces. When they leak, it sucks the crawl space.
Oh, yeah.
It's sucking the moisture, the gas, the radon, right? Radon. What about radon gas? If you got a crawl space and you've got that ductwork, that cold air return that isn't sealed, it causes negative pressure. Now, if you have the vents, well, okay, now you're sucking air from the outside. That's kind of stupid, right?
No, hang on negative pressure. If you're supplying air into the crawl space,
Positive pressure.
yes, and we want it to remain positive, so we do not put a dedicated return down there. Although the supply and return ductwork may be in the crawl space, the return will leak a little bit, and in other words, it'll draw some air from the crawl, but we're overcoming that by putting a dedicated supply, so it's always a positive pressure.
So it'll offset.
I've been in crawl spaces where they even have a forced air furnace in the crawl space.
Absolutely. Many.
Yeah, just
A vented crawl space to make it even worse.
yeah, just like the project in Beechwood we did. Forced air in the crawl space, and the crawl space had another secondary level that had a drain that would actually drain the hot water tank just in case it would blow. And
In the crawl space?
In the crawl space. It was unbelievable. And I just got a call from the woman, and she said, because she goes down there. This woman crawls around her crawl space, and it's unheard of. And she literally said, "It doesn't smell anymore, John." And I says, "Well, when you address it from the exterior, and you don't allow anything to come in, and you have everything conditioned, it's going to..."
Of course, we told her that going in.
So you know what I'm talking about.
What? The one that calls me every week about something? Yeah, I know.
Wait, you guys have the same client?
Yeah.
Well, we all...
This is such a small world.
Wait a
Oh
minute.
my God.
This client came from you.
Oh no.
Right.
Are you kidding
And
me?
I went in and cleaned up the mold in their house. It was a bank-owned house.
All right.
Nice house. The bank-owned house. We cleaned up all the mold. I said, but we can't do everything. I'm not going down there and making myself crazy in your crawl space until John does the waterproofing. Because we'll treat it, sanitize it, there won't be mold, but you know what? We can't kill the smell until you get rid of that water.
The walls were so bad when we
John
exposed them.
came in and did it.
They had windows. The siding of the house was buried 6 inches below finished grade, and then there was the sill plate. Then there was the windows, and the windows were full of mulch and topsoil throughout the year. From in the crawl space, you look at this window, and it was like you were underground. It's like you're looking at one of those ant farms, right? When we excavated and we exposed the walls, we basically took everything apart, the cracks, the fractures in the wall, and in the process, because we do a high pressure wash to the wall before we cut grind the wall before the application of new waterproofing, and literally she crawled down into the crawl space.
The client.
Yeah. And she was like, there's water in the crawl space. There's water in the crawl space. Well, I says, of course. We exposed your defective walls and we cleaned them and we prepped them with high pressure water. And she basically was like, well, is it going to go away? I says, give it time. So basically from that point, we did the entire waterproofing. We got everything sealed up. We got the drainage system, inspection, backfill. We went with stone all the way up because there was no way to be able to backfill because we eliminated the windows. We took the windows out.
Good. The waterproof the outside too, right?
Right. So now she has a guy coming in to be able to take care of the sill plates, but he hasn't done it yet. And with the gravel all the way up, positive drainage away from the wall.
Did she call you for the duct pointing?
Yeah.
Okay.
The chimney right now, it's been covered with a tarp for the entire summer, which I said to them, you shouldn't have that. They're trying to figure out where the leak is. That would be a good one for you. But they said they added water, and they were talking about the cricket and the flashing, and they flooded it.
The chimney leaked?
It didn't leak. So now she's baffled. So I says, well, the rain and the wind comes from generally like the southwest, so it could be a wind-driven issue with high volumes of rain, and it hits the brick, just like the saturation test.
Well, the moisture came in and totally screwed up the fireplace,
Right.
and we had to tear all the defective stuff out. And it goes up.
Now they can't find the leak.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was at that church. He had a church where the church hired roofers to replace the roof like 4 times. They hired waterproofing people and they all kind of people, and it still leaked. So he came out there and he called me. We collaborated and we found out that the church brick on the upper roof got wet. Remember?
Right.
It would just suck the water in
like a sponge.
And it was facing the west, so a long duration rain was, and the water would just saturate the brick, run down behind the brick,
and then fill up underneath the 2 rubber roofs. It was like you're walking on a waterbed. Remember?
And then it would leak and would drip like through the
screws of
the whatever
air conditioning unit.
The air conditioning unit, and there was like a
curb.
What do you call that metal that they put on
corrugated
decking. Roof decking,
right.
and the screws would go through. It's just like follow the screw
right.
and drip, and they had buckets on it, drip, and it would like collect water for like 4 days after every rainstorm.
Right.
That's great.
And you know what he did? He went and sealed the brick. Right. Done.
We sealed the brick,
and it was over. Right. That's it. There's like a bucket of like $100 of.
Yeah.
I have a question. When you convert a vented crawl space to a conditioned crawl space, when do you decide that we also need a sump pump in the crawl?
Well, see, that depends now. If the house has a gravity drainage system that takes the water from the roof, a lot of times builders, developers, contractors, when they're building foundations, they generally wouldn't put any kind of drainage system around the crawl space because it was something that was unlimited. So if there is a sewer line that facilitates a gravity system for the full basement drainage, say there is a basement connected to it or a lower sewer system, we would reconstruct the main sewer line to be able to accept a drainage system around that crawl space to drain naturally. If it's in a low-lying area and the storm sewer lines are too high to facilitate gravity, that's when we recommend to put a sump well in. Now, I like to put the sump wells from the outside of the building. I don't like the sump wells on the inside.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah. Easier to maintain. They have some great alarm systems that are low voltage that you can tie in to where if something fails with the pump, that you would hear an alarm or a bell. It just keeps the water out.
So do you keep the sump pump height below the frost line?
Well, yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
because your bottom of your footer of your crawl space should be below 36 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Now the code is up to 42.
We're 42 at Michigan.
Right, so basically you want that whole drainage system to dump into your sump well at 42 to 50 inches deep.
Mm-hmm.
You got usually about 8 inches below the bottom of the foundation footer. But I've seen drain tiles laid level on top of the footer, and the concrete slab poured level with the footer. So instead of putting the concrete 4 inches above the footer and pouring your slab over a vapor barrier, you have a drain tile that sits level around your foundation, and it has no pitch. So what happens? The water has to accumulate and has to rise, and it builds up its own water table, and it finds its way under pressure to dispose of itself either into a sump pump or into a gravity system. So the farther away you keep the water, the better. And a lot of these crawl spaces, they have these sump pumps, and then they fail. Nobody knows about it, and there they are living. And you have
it's
all
under the crawl space,
right? And you spend all this money to condition it and to put your radon blankets, and all of a sudden the pump fails, and you don't know what happens. It starts to fill up under the radon blanket before you know things are saturated, and then you start getting the odor.
And then your house smells musty.
Right.
And then you walk in the front door and you go,
I couldn't. I could.
Right, the front door smell, right? I mean,
Remember the lady in the wheelchair out in North Homestead?
Oh God, yeah.
Right by the
right by
school.
the creek. By the creek. Yeah.
Classic example.
It's horrible.
We told them.
You went out there, it was beautiful, right? And next thing you know, there was a problem, and if there's any kind of issues, we're there right away, right? We crawled down into that crawl space. It was like, I was like, we got a problem, And then that's where he took over, and he had to justify why it happened, and she was very
John, if I'm outside my house, I can see my condensing unit pad, my condensing unit, and you decided you elected to install the sump pump outside the house boundary.
Right.
What would I see?
You would just see a black lid flush with the ground.
Oh, I actually see the airtight lid.
Yeah, well, it's an airtight lid. A lot of people like it above grade, and then they'll put like landscape rocks around it and stuff. There's different types of like alarm system. A lot of people, instead of an alarm, they want a light. So if something fails, the light, like an ambulance. But usually we leave it up about 4 inches, and then they landscape around it, or they put mulch.
It's perfectly serviceable.
Perfectly
I can get
serviceable.
to the pump that failed, or
Absolutely.
float that stuck, or
Right. Well, depending on how deep it is, what we'll do is we'll connect to the actual pump a stainless steel chain that sits on an eyelet to where you can grab and unhook it, and then basically the sump pump, we have a union right at the transition where it exits, where you unscrew the union and you just grab the chain and you pull it up to service it.
Nice.
That's a great. He's got a lot of great little things, right? Don't you have a patent on a product?
Patent on a product?
A backflow preventer?
No patent on it. We have an idea.
Oh, one of your inventions. One of your inventions.
Right. The idea based on patenting the idea, which is going through right now, but I'm not worried about it because all we did was we basically stopped the actual water from coming under the structure of the home when the valve is active. Nobody does it, and we've got the solution. And a lot of people don't understand. More water travels on the exterior pipe during a surge than through the pipe.
What he's saying is the pipe around the outside of the pipe, not in the pipe.
Right.
The water leaking in through the outside of the pipe.
Right, so imagine this, right? You get the big rainfall, you've got all the water from the road going into the catch basins start overloading. A lot of times cities, municipalities use the actual parking lots for retention by installing what they call a hydro brake, which is a smaller inlet going into a bigger pipe to slow down the water so it doesn't flood the basements. Well, a lot of the infrastructure is totally screwed up around this part of town. So basically, what happens is
North America?
Yeah, right.
Like that's a pretty big town,
so
right?
Imagine you've got storm sewer water infiltration into the sanitary system. The sanitary system should be its own separate system, but everybody tapped into it some way or another. But when the pipes are laid, they're laid into some type of an aggregate or gravel or something to bed it in. Okay, so this is the matrix of stone, which is around the actual pipe, which is taking the water to its point of disposal. Once that gets overloaded and it starts to surge, and the water starts backing up, it starts working its way back and using people's basements as retention. So people, they say, well, you know what? Let's put a back water valve in. Okay, well, fine and dandy.
Is that a backflow preventer?
A backflow preventer would prevent any
inside the
water
pipe.
back up into your home. But what we found through just years and years and years of repairing other people's issues, the valves, they work. But the amount of water that travels on the exterior of the pipe and works its way through generally the penetration of the sanitary exiting the actual house. So when that valve closes, it's okay. The water's not coming up the drain. But it's going to start purging under your foundation and literally working its way through the cracks and where the floors meet the wall. So we have that solution.
Wow.
We have the solution. So we had it, and we
that's
stopped.
like serious soil contamination, right?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be a lot of contamination. You know.
I got a great example. There's two brothers that live in matching $1 million houses. Right?
Yeah, right up the street. Yeah.
The names to remain nameless.
Right.
All right. So I do and they both have a made system in their complex with a lift station in it.
So this lift station is basically where everybody dumps. Flush a toilet, goes to the lift station.
It's like it's a big hole with some kind of lift pump station.
Right. Everything goes to that point, and it gets wound up, and it gets pumped up to the city main.
So when that lift station fails,
it
all runs back into their basements.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's not good.
One brother, I do
smart
his
one.
Yeah, smart one. I do his system, and then I talk to him because he's got. We did a big water remediation mold job there, and
probably one of the most beautiful spaces I've ever been in.
Yeah,
I've been in a lot of basements.
This place is unbelievable. But we said, listen, you really want to talk to Johnny and explain what's going on. Oh, this happened twice to him. So finally he gets the message, and I said, you really got to talk to John. So John comes over. We put the system in. He gets it. The brother next door has a similar basement.
The other millionaire.
But he's got more problems than just a backwater valve.
Right.
Everything's moving.
The brothers live next to each other, and they're both millionaires.
Right.
Why would you? Okay,
I don't know. I guess
so. This is the younger brother. You can't tell him anything.
Yeah.
So he poo-poos it, and he doesn't put his in. The last time it had flooded and the lift station failed, I get a call from Manhattan because the other brother's out of town now. Hey Jim, did you check my house? Yeah. My brother just had 2 feet of water in his basement, and it ruined his whole downstairs. They got to take out all the floor, do all this stuff.
It was probably a nice basement.
It was beautiful.
Probably like those TV movie rooms and all that going on, right?
You know,
it kind of reminded me of like the World Poker Tour. You know, with the poker tables, and I'm talking glass walls and
one of those
red velour carpeting with big a TV screen as big as this freaking room, man. You know, I mean,
that was the basement that flooded.
Yeah.
So,
sure made a believer out of me.
Yeah.
So how'd you solve it? I mean,
well, his brother had no problem. The other brother that didn't want it, he got it. So basically, what happens there is by the lake, it's very sandy, sandy soil. So what happens is the lift station, basically, there's some type of an infiltration somewhere, because the amount of houses that are there, they would have to be running full bore, flushing toilets, taking showers, just doing all day long before this actual sump well fills up to the point where it would start backing up and hydrostatically find its way up through the drains. So in order to justify that this house got as much water as it did, the lift station failed and something was infiltrating other than someone's house flushing the toilets. So it had to have been groundwater being so close to the lake and infiltrated through some type of a vein into that sump well and literally just kept purging because of the amount of water that was accumulating.
Yeah. Would a groundwater table be really high next to a lake? Just just generally. I mean, here's Lake Erie. It goes down, and you got a house, so the water table's got to be high, right? I mean,
I've lived on it
it's
for
the level of the lake,
40
right?
years, yeah.
If you go to the top of the water, you're going to find water, sure.
You don't have to dig down too far,
Not
probably.
much, no.
Just go out and look at my lawn or my beach house, every spring. That water was sitting in there.